He brought me to the court. And interestingly, the matter was really high profile. I was on a newspaper. The matter actually, we worked really hard, got all the bundlings done, brought to the court, I think probably a lorry full of boxes, brought in, and the matter actually settled. It's right before it was actually called for hearing.
Welcome to the second episode of our podcast series, ADR Corner AIAC on Air, where we interview experts in the field of international arbitration and give the audience an insight into their careers and their journey in law. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Ms. Crystal Wong from Lee Hishamuddin, Allen and Gledhill. Thank you so much for being a part of this interview, Crystal.
Thank you.
Yeah. So usually we would read out a long introduction, but this time we don't want to do that. And usually how we do things over here is, I'll ask you to introduce yourself to the audience members.
Okay, so I have to introduce myself now. Okay, great. So, hi everyone, I'm Crystal Wong. I'm a practicing lawyer based in Malaysia. I sit as an arbitrator and writer. Sometimes I do yoga, and of course, most of the time people know me as coffee addict. Yes.
Okay, is there any favorite brand of coffee or?
No, actually, but down the road we have Pau and then Fika. These are my two favorite because it's close to my 3 years old daughter's school as well. So that is where I am every morning, 8 a.m. without fail.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fika is actually quite nice. Yeah.
Yes.
I like VCR.
All right.
Yeah. So the first question that to kick things off is, how did you enter the field of law, and what was your inspiration? Why did you decide to become a lawyer?
Nothing really, to be honest. There's nothing dramatic. It was the point where I was young and I loved debating. So I love problem solving. So that is how I ventured into law. I started doing a series of 3 energy arbitration. That is how I get hooked on and drawn into it. And ever since then, the intricacy between energy, engineering, so those are the areas that I'm focusing at the moment now. And it's been a good 15 years. Yeah.
So is there a particular case or any incident that sort of reinforced your decision to join law?
I think it's not really join, but to continue practice. So I think to be able to be introduced to an area right from the outset, an area that you wholeheartedly believe in and enjoy doing, I think that's quite rare. So you always people say that find where your passion lies. So for me is ever since the outset, I have been fortunately introduced to the area. And once you start speaking the language, so when I talk about language, is probably the PPA, Power Purchase Agreements language, and the EPCC language, then I get drawn into it. It's really too hard and too far for me to get out from that area anymore. So I guess that's how I persisted and carried on in this industry. Yeah.
And early on in your career, were there any challenges that you faced? Anything, and how, if you could tell our audience how you navigated through them, if anything does come to mind.
For energy area or construction area, is always the technical parts that's really difficult. But yet at the same time, those are the part that really makes you want to find out more. For me, is learning from your clients. Your clients are representatives, the engineers or the metallurgists. Those are the parts that really for me, finds really different. And then also learning from your colleague. I have a very, very nice colleague who has mechanical engineering background. So to see how he drafts and see things from different perspectives, that helps a lot. And also the fact that being able to be brought into board meetings since probably I was a few months in my privilege. So Dato meeting, which I mentioned on several platforms, it's really nice to have him around as a mentor. He introduced me to this word that intrigued me since young, which is the board level. So these board levels, how they think, how they decide matters, the commercial acumen that they have. To me, it's something that is really different from what we learned back in uni. So those things keep me excited from time to time. and challenged me to think even further than just solving things on textbook level desktop analysis.
Right. It's very interesting you say that. One of my mentors, Miss Liz Matthew, she is an advocate on record in the Supreme Court in India. And I was interning with her when she mentioned to me that you ought to forget everything that you learn in law school. The first few years in law, you unlearn everything that you learn in law school. And the actual practice is very different from what you do on a day-to-day basis. So it's very interesting here. So you mentioned Dato Nitin. I'm guessing he's one of your mentors. And if I could just dig deeper, are there any other inspirations or role models that you have in the field?
No, there's only one. No, I fortunately, okay, so my pupil master is actually Mr. Kumar Kanagasingam.
Okay.
He brought me to the court.
Okay.
And interestingly, the matter was really high profile. I was on a newspaper. The matter actually, we worked really hard, got all the bundlings done, brought to the court, I think probably a lorry full of boxes, brought in, and the matter actually settled. It's right before it was actually called for hearing. So, and then thereafter, Dato Nitin adopted me, I think since the second week or third week onward. So ever since 13 years, 14 years down the road, I've been working very closely with Dato since then. So to be very honest, he's the one that shaped me and introduced me to this legal profession. How I draft, be it oral, written advocacy, how you strategize cases, how you speak, cross-examine, how you present yourself, how you should take the lead, and yeah. So I definitely owe it to him. That's really my mentor in legal practice.
And how is he as a mentor? Is he very strict?
Yes, of course. He is extremely strict, and he's really sarcastic in the way he speak and his command of English. Of course, judges have also commanded and also I wouldn't say complain, but they have pointed out that you need not raise your voice because your command of English would already melt down the witnesses, that level. So he's very strict, but at the same time he's fatherly as well. So in that sense, it's very nice to work with him. Yeah. And
is there any advice that he shared, or if not just him, anyone else, some advice that has stick with you and you try and implement every day in your work?
I think a while ago, maybe like 10 years ago, he has been mentioning, I think a lot of people has been mentioning to us this practice is a marathon and not sprint. So when we were young and driven, you actually want things fast, right? And you want to just sprint and get to the finishing line. As I have matured a little bit and grew, so I start to learn that it's actually all right to slow down at times, to enjoy what you're doing and to give your best so that you have no regrets. So I start to be able to appreciate arguments and his teaching much more nowadays. I feel like I can absorb faster and be able to put things or the advice that he shared into practice and appreciate them a lot more as I slow down. So I think that it's something that I feel like that piece of advice have benefited me, because leaving that advice as to saying that practice is a marathon, not a sprint, I actually diverted shortly to do my master. And that 9 months, instead of seeing this as a hindrance or hurdle, I actually see that as stepping stone, right? So that actually makes me progress a little bit faster in arbitration, if that makes sense. Yeah, even though there's this 9 months gap. Yeah.
So if I can ask you a follow-up question on that. So you went to the NUS for your masters and you did it in international arbitration.
Yes.
How was that experience, and how did you? Why is it that you chose NUS specifically?
2 choices, either NUS or the UK. So this is nearer to home, so of course the more convenient, and they are established and famous, whatnot, right? So good school. And at that juncture, I think Professor Lucy Reed, she was leading the program, the International Commercial Arbitration and International Dispute Resolution. LLM. So I thought, why not? And true enough, she was teaching my class and she gave really, really good pointers as to how especially a female lawyer should hold themselves, can advance in terms of advocacies or client handlings and all in the arena of international arbitration. So that is why I chose NUS instead of like another school. And that whole experience was, I would say, it was rewarding. I wrote a paper in climate change and energy policy, and I can use the paper when I'm back in practice. And of course, energy is the area that I love and I live in. So that is really good in the sense that it was a seamless transition. At that point in time, there were voices where they say that if you're going to practice in arbitration, or you practice as a lawyer, you may not need a master degree, right? So at that juncture, it's also the same time where I was really having this heart-to-heart talk with Nitin and asking him, is this necessary? And is this a good thing that I should pursue, right? And of course, at the early stage, he was saying that in practice, it's really experience that counts. But later on, he was convinced that having a master, having slight time off to do more research is actually good for my long run, my practice in terms of long run. Yeah.
Yeah, there's often that perception that you usually do your masters and then your PhD maybe after, if you want a career in academia.
Yes.
But I think that that narrative is sort of shifting now. I joined the AIAC after doing my masters from Leiden.
Yeah.
And once I was done, I enjoyed the program, just like you said. But the feeling I had was that 9 months was too short. The time just flew by, you know.
So when is your PhD?
Hopefully soon. But if I could ask you, how did you get into the field of arbitration, and what was your first case in international arbitration, if you don't mind sharing?
By accident. So a series of that 3 energy arbitrations. It was assigned because I joined Nitin, and we were doing defamation, so we were in court during my pupillage. So when I started joining him, he basically said, I do arbitration, I do construction matters, and if you're going to join me, there's no choice, you have to do it. So I was fortunate enough that it was a series of 3 arbitrations involving power purchase agreement, independent power producers. So I had a chance to be in it, and I got thrown into it. Of course, I did my diploma in international arbitration thereafter, right after my pupillage. So that it's like a fast track road into the arbitration world, and never left since then. Yeah.
And do you enjoy the practice?
Yes, wholeheartedly, to be honest. Yeah.
And if I could ask you a personal question, do you prefer practice as a counsel, or do you like sitting as an arbitrator? What would be your...
This juncture of my life, definitely counsel. But actually, there's another question to that, or another dimension to the question. So often, at least in Malaysia, or in allocation of work, do you prefer to work as solicitor, counsel, or arbitrator? So for the first part or the formative year, I practiced wholly, I suppose, as Nitin's solicitor. And then 5 years ago, I started to do more counsel work with him empowering me. And this year onwards, I suppose Dato start actually placing me as a lead counsel, with him guiding just for strategic reasons and all. So I see that transition. And of course, the arbitrator practice I do have from AIAC mainly, but from other arbitral institutions as well. But my preference is at this juncture is still counsel work. It's really interesting, especially for cross-examination and all.
And that's
surprised me.
That's also where all the action is. I mean,
that is right. Yes. Yeah.
So one thing I admire about you, Crystal, is the number of legal publications that you have. So I've seen that you constantly write journal articles. You have contributions to book chapters. So how difficult is it to take out time to actively write? And also, if you would have any advice for our listeners, and how if they also want to contribute to the field, how they can do that, and how exactly to take out time for it.
I suppose discipline and calendar. So you need to actually be very intentional about publications and about structuring, scheduling for publication. So say for me and my team, we probably structure 12 months in a year. You need 4 at the very least for the team, let's say. And then for individuals, how many do you need? Or how many do you want, right? It may not be need. Maybe for my team, I need 4. But for individuals, do you want to be told later? Or do you want to write to ensure that you continue to do research or keep yourself updated? That I think is very individual and it's up to everyone what you really want. I don't like to force them, but I always suggest or recommend that perhaps there's this new case law. Do you want to write about it? For me, writing is make sure that you keep abreast of all this development. That is why I write. But sometimes I do give myself more great idea. For instance, I'm actually working on a publication, a book itself, and it's in Chinese.
Okay.
So hoping to publish in October. I'm more than halfway through. But yes, so it's more about one chapter at a time and slowly get to a book, I suppose. But scheduling is very important. Yeah, and I usually write either early in the morning or really late at night or go away over the weekend and just to write more. Yeah, but the content itself is very subjective and you need to pick the contents that you really like about or you're really interested in. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So one of my mentors is Miss Jane Willems, and she always stresses on the importance of writing. And she was telling me how she got her first ICSID appointment because sometime back in college she wrote an article on it.
Yes.
And to be fair, when she received the appointment, she didn't remember much about the publication, but just goes to show that
Yes.
you never know how it can contribute to your career later on.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
so it's great to hear about that. And another thing is, I see that you wear a lot of different hats. You are currently the director of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, the Malaysian branch.
Yes.
And you're also affiliated with other esteemed arbitral organizations
Yeah.
and institutions. How do you juggle all of this and how do you take time out for it? And how do you make sure that you're able to excel in all of these roles? That's
just keep trying, I suppose. I take my appointments and obligations very seriously. And I feel like it's actually your reputation that is at stake. So for instance, if you take on a presidency role or you take on an appointment, for instance, AIAC, do you, when being asked or offered, are you going to take on the job? Or for instance, you're going to write an award on time or you will preside properly? Do you have the necessary time and attention and will to do so? So for me, is before I sign on to any role, I will ask myself this year itself, number of cases that I have, number of role, the additional extra curriculum that you're going to take on, whether you can actually deliver. Because it's your own KPI that you're writing, right? So that is how I see in terms of the roles. So whatever roles that I intend to take on or taken on, I will ensure that I have my respective KPI for them. And now we'll have regular checks to ensure that at least for this role, I have delivered, say, 1 conference, how many newsletter, I've kept in touch with my committees, my members are well taken care of, or at least within my consent, they are well taken care of. So those are how I think I progress in terms of roles and in terms of my team as well within the firm. At least I try my best and I feel like I've tried my best. That's how I operate. Yeah.
Do you also think it's a good way to meet other people in the community? So when you work on all these different roles, it's a diverse team, diverse committee members.
That is right. Yes.
People from different organizations.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So there are also a lot of these young groups that institutions have, and in fact the AIAC has the YPG. So we always encourage people to try and join in these organizations.
Yes.
So we've covered a large aspect about your early career and your journey in law. If I could ask you about what you do besides law, so what some of your hobbies and interests are?
Nowadays, catch up on sleep. That's very important. And holidays. I try to structure my holidays, my vacations early in the year. Because then hearings will get booked up and then other commitments that we mentioned earlier, business travel will start to be locked in. So usually I plan very early in advance using free points, the miles points that I have to plan the holidays. Apart from that, yoga, coffee. So those are the two things. I'm of course playing with my three-year-old kid. Yeah.
Right. Favorite holiday destination?
Bali.
Bali. Okay.
Yes, Bali.
I'm not yet been there, but see,
Ah.
it looks pretty. Of course, Bali is Bali.
Yeah.
It's quite crowded these days, though. That's what they say.
Yes, I'm actually going next week.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Yeah. I also hear that you're a certified yoga instructor. So,
Hmm.
when did that happen? And do you still teach yoga?
No, I don't teach anymore. I only taught probably a few lessons. I got certified during COVID time.
All right,
Got
okay.
really drawn on to it. I feel like yoga is the perfect way for me to relax my mind and slow down, meditate a little bit when work get really busy and overwhelmed, and or sometimes clients pressure and whatnot. So that's the time where you can sit still and just do a little bit stretching, relax your mind. So that is how I channel my frustration at times. Yeah.
So, for the next question, I'm going to get a little philosophical. If I could ask you, I mean, when you look back on your journey in law and your career so far,
Yeah.
do you think there's anything that you would have done differently, or are you content with exactly what you're doing right now?
I don't think so. I get asked this question quite a few times. Actually, I don't. I really treasure the journey. I trust myself throughout the journey as well. And of course, people always say it's important to choose the right mentor from the outset and be with the right establishment. So I feel like I have settled in for the best I could have. I mean, there are other options upon graduation, whether I want to go to China, whether I want to just work overseas for a little bit before I come back. There were offers. So, and of course, at that time, my dad was saying, come back, get called to the bar, and then you can think about it. So I came back, got called to the bar, and I decided to stay and work with Dr. Nitin and Lee Shamuddin. And ever since, I think I never regretted that journey. I really cherish it and the people that I work with. So, yeah.
It's fantastic to hear that. So, as just our last question for today is, what is the advice that you would have for some of our young listeners, especially women, if they are looking to build a career in international arbitration? Some pointers or any advice that you could share with them?
I would like to say you belong, in the sense that even if the room, especially certain area of practice, construction, energy, it may be a situation where you feel intimidating. It definitely in a board meeting, even at this era, you probably see one or two females, sometimes it's all men. To me, it doesn't matter. It's what you can bring to the table. Starting probably at early stage of a career, it would be a situation where you are still learning, listening very closely, try to understand where they come from. And slowly, especially when you have quiet people that empower you, to encourage you to speak up, and point towards you to speak up, grab the opportunity, speak with grace and substance, then people will actually listen to you, because they will realize that she's not here to write down notes. She's not here to just, be a bystander. She knows what she's talking about. There may be an area of interest, right? That you may be better with like quantum in terms of liability, you may be better with documents in terms of, or instead of like legal arguments. So you need to figure that out and work towards your competitive advantage. So that is how I found my place in, say, a boardroom or a place full of like other professions or full of men, right? So in that sense, I feel like you just act professionally and find a space to sit within this community. It's perfectly doable.
That is some fantastic advice. The viewers may not know this, but then I am the case counsel on a lot of matters involving Crystal. And it's usually her asking me questions or the application of certain rules. But I've absolutely enjoyed having you at the hot seat today and grilling you with questions. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Thank you. Thank you.